I'm Olivia Carter, 28, and I never imagined my proudest moment would spark a family feud. My penthouse, earned through years of grueling 60-hour weeks, became a battleground at my brother Carlos's wedding. What should have been a joyful day turned dark when my parents cornered me between the cake cutting and first dance. Their demand? Hand over my home to Carlos. When I stood my ground, my father slapped me, leaving a handprint on my cheek for 250 shocked guests to see. If you're watching this, drop your hometown in the comments. Hit like and subscribe as I share the wedding day that changed my family forever. Growing up in Portland with my parents and younger brother, Carlos, wasn't easy. Our home had a clear pecking order, with Carlos always on top. 3 years younger, he was the golden child, the son my father pinned his legacy on. I was just Olivia, expected to marry and take another's name. From childhood, the favoritism was stark. Carlos got new clothes, the latest gaming consoles, and endless support for his hobbies. I was told to be practical, that money didn't grow on trees. When Carlos wanted soccer camp, my parents made it happen. When I needed track cleats, I had to dip into my babysitting cash. This continued into our teens. My parents cheered at every one of Carlos's football games, acting like each touchdown was a miracle. My debate tournaments and track meets? Often ignored or forgotten. Still, I pushed through, earning scholarships and working part-time to support myself. After high school, I studied finance at the University of Washington. My parents didn't contribute a dime, saying they were saving for Carlos's college. I graduated with honors, $40,000 in student loans, but proud of what I'd achieved. I started at a mid-sized financial firm, working 80-hour weeks. I took on tough projects, covered holiday shifts, and built a reputation as a problem solver. While others partied on weekends, I stayed at my desk, determined to shape my own future. By 28, I was one of the youngest senior financial advisors at my firm. My income grew with my client list. At 30, I decided to buy a home. After months of searching, I found a breathtaking Seattle penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the city skyline and Puget Sound. At $1.5 million, it was every late night and missed vacation made real. Signing those mortgage papers was a triumph like no other. Carlos took a different path. He dropped out of college after 3 semesters, saying it wasn't for him. He drifted between jobs, never lasting long. My parents called it finding himself and kept funding him into his 20s. Last year, Carlos met Heather at a party. She was a kind kindergarten teacher, patient enough to balance his impulsive streak. After 8 months, they got engaged, and my parents were thrilled. Carlos lost his job at a sporting goods store around the engagement. Heather's modest teaching salary supported their small 1-bedroom apartment, which my parents helped furnish. They also offered to pay for the entire wedding, despite their limited savings. The irony wasn't lost on me, they found money for Carlos's wedding but not my education. I still wanted a bond with my family despite our past. I showed up for holidays, remembered birthdays, and tried connecting with Carlos and Heather. I even hosted an engagement dinner at my penthouse, though my mom critiqued every decor choice, and my dad kept asking what everything cost. As the wedding neared, comments about my home grew frequent. My mom noted how much space I had for one person. My dad said successful people should help struggling family members. I brushed it off, thinking it was just family chatter, not a plan. The week before the wedding, I helped with last-minute tasks, addressing envelopes, grabbing Carlos's tuxedo when he forgot, and giving a heartfelt toast at the rehearsal dinner. I hoped the wedding could mend old wounds and build stronger ties. I was so wrong. The wedding was set for 4 p.m. at Lakeside Gardens, a stunning venue by Lake Washington. I arrived at 11 a.m. to help with final touches and support Heather. The place was gorgeous, white roses and lilies everywhere, crystal chandeliers in the reception tent, and a string quartet playing softly. Spring weather gave us clear skies, perfect for an outdoor ceremony. I wore a lavender floor-length dress, Heather's choice for the bridesmaids. My hair was in an elegant updo, and I'd treated myself to professional makeup. Arranging place cards and centerpieces, I caught my reflection in a mirror. I looked confident, a far cry from the insecure girl who always felt second best. Guests arrived around 3:30, and I greeted relatives I hadn't seen in years. Aunt Patricia hugged me, saying, "Look at you, Olivia, a successful career woman with your own city place." No husband yet, though. Uncle Robert chimed in, "That penthouse must have cost a fortune. Hard to believe you manage it alone." The comments kept coming. Cousin Amanda asked about my long work hours, and her husband Gary questioned if financial advising was truly rewarding. Each remark felt like a jab, as if my success was somehow wrong. I noticed my parents whispering with relatives, who then glanced my way. The pattern was subtle but unsettling, ramping up my nerves. As the ceremony neared, I joined Heather and the bridesmaids in the bridal suite. Heather glowed in her lace gown, radiating joy. I adjusted her veil and said, "I'm so happy Carlos found you," meaning every word. Despite my issues with him, Heather had always been kind. "Thanks, Olivia," she said, squeezing my hand. "It means a lot that you're here. Carlos talks about you constantly, he really looks up to you." That surprised me, I'd never felt admiration from him. Before I could ask more, the wedding coordinator called us to line up. The ceremony was beautiful. As a bridesmaid, I watched Carlos's face as Heather walked down the aisle with her dad. His love was clear, and for a moment, I remembered the little boy I used to play with before our family drifted apart. My parents sat up front, Mom tearing up, Dad beaming with pride. When the officiant asked, "Who gives this woman?" my dad stood with Heather's father, his voice strong. They looked like perfect, loving parents. During a musical break after the vows, I saw Mom whisper to Dad. He nodded and glanced at me with a calculating look, not anger, but like I was a puzzle to solve. As the newlyweds walked back down the aisle, I followed with a groomsman, forcing a smile despite my unease. I overheard relatives' whispers, "Such a shame about her living situation. Carlos deserves a real start. Her penthouse would be perfect for them." The words floated like bubbles, confusing but ominous. The cocktail hour flew by in a haze of champagne and appetizers. I smiled for countless photos, each one harder to fake. My parents kept acting odd, whispering in serious huddles with different groups. As guests moved to the reception tent for dinner, my cousin Sophia pulled me aside, her face worried. "I don't know what's up," she whispered, "but Aunt Diana and Uncle James are telling everyone Carlos needs your penthouse more than you. It's strange, Olivia. Watch out." Her warning echoed in my head as I entered the reception, clueless that the night was about to change my family forever. The reception kicked off like any wedding. The DJ called in the wedding party, and we walked into cheers. Carlos and Heather danced their first dance to "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" My brother moved with surprising grace, leading his new wife across the floor. Dinner was served, prime rib or salmon with roasted veggies and garlic mashed potatoes. Then came the speeches. Derek, Carlos's old college buddy and best man, shared funny stories and warm wishes. As maid of honor, I gave a short, heartfelt speech, welcoming Heather and wishing them joy. Then my father stood, tapping his glass to get everyone's attention. He started with sweet stories about Carlos as a kid, full of pride. Then his tone shifted. "Some people have natural gifts," he said, eyeing me. "They gain wealth and things easily. Others, like Carlos, have bigger hearts, always putting others first. Possessions aren't everything. Family is what counts." The room went quiet. His words stung, implying my success was effortless, not hard-earned. Guests shifted awkwardly, sensing the jab. "Carlos and Heather are starting their life," he went on, raising his glass. "Those who've been lucky will step up to give them the home they deserve." To the bride and groom. People echoed the toast, but I caught their glances, a mix of curiosity and unease. My face burned as I realized Dad had publicly asked me to bankroll my brother's new life. After dinner, as the dance floor filled, I slipped to a quiet corner to process. I was watching Carlos and Heather laugh with friends when my parents closed in, trapping me like guards. "Olivia, we need to talk," Mom said, her voice low and firm, "about your brother's future." "This feels like a bad time for family talks," I said, sensing trouble. "Shouldn't we be celebrating?" "This matters," Dad cut in. "It's about all of us." They led me to a small side room meant for the couple's private moments. Mom shut the door, blocking out the party's music and laughter. "Olivia," Mom started, sounding like she was scolding kid me, "we've been thinking about your living situation." "My living situation's fine," I said, staying calm. "That's the thing," Dad said. "It's too much. That penthouse, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, that big terrace. Why does a single woman need all that?" I blinked, shocked by his bluntness. "I earned my home. It's not too much. It's mine." Mom sighed, all drama. "We always knew you were selfish, but this? Your brother's married now. He and Heather will want kids soon. They need a real home, not that tiny apartment they can barely afford." "What? You think I should give them my penthouse?" The idea was so wild I nearly laughed. "It makes sense," Dad pressed. "You're single. You don't need the space. Carlos and Heather do. It's perfect for them. They could raise kids there," Mom added, like that would sway me. "Think of your future nieces and nephews." I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I feel for Carlos and Heather, but my penthouse isn't the answer. I can help them another way, maybe with a down payment for their own place." Dad's face darkened. "That's not enough. Carlos deserves your penthouse more. He's always been the responsible one, staying close to family." The irony of calling my jobless brother responsible hit hard, but I held back. "I'm sorry, my answer's no," I said firmly. "My home's not up for grabs. Now, please, I'd like to get back to the reception." I headed for the door, but Mom blocked me. "How can you be so cold after all we've done for you?" Her words stopped me cold. "All you've done? Like what? Paying for my college? Oh, wait, you didn't. Supporting my career? Nope. Showing up to my track meets or debates? You barely did." My voice carried years of pent-up pain. Mom's face went pale, then red with anger. "We gave you life," she snapped. "We raised you, gave you a home, food, and this is how you repay us, by refusing your brother?" "I offered to help," I said. "Just not by giving up my home." Dad stepped closer, jabbing a finger near my face. "This isn't a request, Olivia. You'll sign that penthouse over to Carlos and Heather as a wedding gift. Find somewhere else to live, something that fits you." His demand stunned me silent. Then my voice came, steady. "No. I won't. The penthouse is mine. I earned it, I pay for it, I decide its future. This talk is done." I turned to leave, but Dad grabbed my arm, yanking me back. His grip bruised, his face twisted with rage I'd never seen. "Listen," he growled. "Family comes first. Always. Walk out without agreeing, and you're no daughter of mine. You'll be dead to us." His threat hung heavy. I looked from Dad's furious eyes to Mom's cold stare. For the first time, I saw it clearly, this wasn't about Carlos's needs or my selfishness. It was about their need to control me, no matter the cost. "I understand," I said, calm despite the storm inside. And my answer's still no. What happened next felt like a blur, unreal. Dad's face turned to pure fury, a vein throbbing at his temple. Mom stepped back, as if bracing for what was coming. "You ungrateful," Dad spat a curse, shocking from a man who preached proper speech. "After all our sacrifices for you. Sacrifices? I asked, old wounds breaking open. Name one thing you gave up for me. One chance, $1 you didn't spend triple on Carlos. His nostrils flared. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing, I shot back. My education, my career, my home, I built it all myself. You get no credit. Mom jumped in, her voice thick with manipulation. Olivia, think about what you're doing. This is family. Blood's thicker than water. Turn your back now, and you'll regret it forever. I'll regret not standing up sooner, I said. This has gone on too long. Carlos is grown. He and Heather need to build their own lives, like I did. That's different, Dad insisted. Carlos needs more help. He's sensitive. No, I said, shaking my head. Carlos is entitled because you made him that way. You taught him he deserves everything, even what's mine. That pushed Dad past his limit. He stepped closer, fists clenched. You'll do as you're told. The penthouse goes to Carlos. End of story. No, I stood firm. Never. My home is mine. The doors swung open, and guests spilled in, drawn by our raised voices. Aunt Patricia, Uncle Robert, and Sophia were there, with Carlos and Heather close behind, looking confused. What's happening? Carlos asked, glancing between us. Dad turned to him, a fake smile plastered on. No worries, son. Just talking about Olivia's wedding gift to you. Gift? Carlos frowned. Your sister's about to give you and Heather her penthouse, Mom said smoothly, to start your married life. The room filled with more guests, all eyes on me, waiting. That's not true, I said clearly. I never agreed to give up my home. Sorry if you thought otherwise, Carlos. Dad stepped between us. Olivia's just being stubborn. She'll come around. I won't, I said sharply. And stop making promises for me. How dare you embarrass us, Dad hissed, voice low but fierce, on your brother's big day. I'm not the one causing a scene, I said. I just want to go back and celebrate Carlos and Heather's wedding. Not until you do what's right, Dad demanded. The room was packed now. I saw Heather's parents by the door, looking worried. The DJ's music pulsed faintly, a strange backdrop to our drama. This isn't the time or place, I said, trying to calm things. Let's talk another day. There's nothing to talk about, Dad boomed, playing to the crowd. Either you support your brother like a good sister, or you admit your fancy apartment means more than family. Dad's words were a trap, framing me as selfish no matter what I said. I took a deep breath, refusing to let the public shaming break me. I love Carlos and Heather, and I wish them all the happiness, I said firmly. But my penthouse is my home, not a prize to be demanded. I worked hard for it, and I'm not giving it up. A murmur rippled through the crowd. I caught Carlos shifting uncomfortably, but he stayed silent, not defending me or challenging our parents. Dad leaned in, his whisper sharp. Last chance, Olivia. Agree now, or you're out of this family. I met his gaze. If your love depends on me giving up my home, we don't share the same idea of family. Then, without warning, Dad's hand struck my cheek, the slap echoing like a gunshot. Gasps filled the room as my head snapped sideways. My face burned, ears ringing from the blow. Time froze. 200 guests stared, stunned. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Carlos stood still, Heather clinging to his arm. Dad loomed over me, his raised hand frozen, his face a mix of fury and maybe regret. In that clear, sharp moment, I felt the toxic ties to my family snap. I stood tall, ignoring the sting on my cheek, and locked eyes with Dad. Then, to my own surprise, I smiled. You just lost me, I whispered, my voice soft but clear in the quiet. Without a word, I walked through the parted crowd, head high, holding back tears. As I passed Carlos, our eyes met briefly. I saw confusion, conflict, maybe shame, but he didn't move to help me. I kept going through the reception tent, past the gift table piled with presents for the brother who stood silent as I was hit, and out into the cool night air, where I could finally breathe. Behind me, voices buzzed with shock and gossip. This wedding would be unforgettable, but for all the wrong reasons. I pulled out my phone to call a rideshare, my hands steady despite the adrenaline. As I waited, I touched my cheek, feeling the heat of a forming bruise. "Are you okay?" Sophia appeared beside me, her face full of concern. "Not really," I admitted, "but I will be." She nodded, no explanation needed. What they did was wrong. All of it. "Thanks for saying that," I said, grateful for her support in the chaos. My car pulled up, and as I left my brother's wedding, alone and hurt, I saw this painful end was also a new start, a life free from expectations that never fit me, from a family that had hurt me since I was a kid. I slid into the back seat, gave my address, and didn't look back at the party going on without me. The drive home blurred with streetlights and quiet tears. At my penthouse, I felt heavy with emotional exhaustion. The bruise on my cheek was darkening, a mark of the night's pain. I kicked off my heels and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows that drew me to this place. Seattle's skyline sparkled, uncaring about my family's drama. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass and let the sobs come, deep and raw, releasing years of hurt. I cried for the girl who was never enough, the young woman who worked herself to death for approval that never came, and the adult just struck by her father at her brother's wedding. After what felt like hours, the tears slowed, leaving a strange calm. In the bathroom, I winced at my reflection. The red handprint on my face stood out, impossible to hide. I wiped off my makeup and hung my bridesmaid dress deep in the closet, out of sight. My silenced phone showed 17 missed calls and 32 texts. I scrolled through, numb. 3 calls from Mom, with voicemails I couldn't face. 5 from Carlos, with texts like "What the hell happened?" and "Mom and Dad are upset you ruined my wedding night." Other messages varied. Aunt Patricia wrote, "Olivia, your father's actions were unforgivable. Call if you need me." My friend Allison texted, "That was assault. Are you okay?" She'd been my plus one. Some stung more. Uncle Robert said, "You could have kept this private. Think of Carlos and Heather." Grandma added, "Your parents want what's best for the family. Apologize." Carlos's text hurt most, focused on his ruined wedding, not Dad hitting me. "How could you cause a scene?" Heather's crying, "Mom's a mess, Dad's talking about disowning you. Fix this." I shut off my phone, too drained for the flood of demands. Tomorrow could handle it. Tonight, I needed to process what this meant for me. Sleep wouldn't come, my mind stuck on the confrontation. At 3 a.m., I gave up, made tea, and curled up on my sofa with a blanket. As I watched the night fade to dawn, a truth hit me. For the first time, I felt no need to fix this. My father's slap had lifted the weight of family expectations, the endless push to please them. The next morning, my phone buzzed with new messages and calls. Mom's tone had shifted from begging to threats, saying I'd be cut off for good if I didn't apologize to Dad and give in. Carlos kept piling on guilt, texting how I'd ruined his big day. I played one voicemail from Dad, his voice twisting my stomach. "Olivia, your behavior was shameful. You provoked me, embarrassed us in front of everyone, and hurt Carlos deeply. When you're ready to make this right and do your duty, reach out. Until then, don't call, don't visit, don't text. You've made your choice." His reversal, painting me as the villain, was so absurd I laughed, a sharp sound in my quiet apartment. Around noon, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Heather, still in travel clothes, looking nervous. I almost didn't open the door, but curiosity got me. "Heather," I said, opening it, "shouldn't you be on your honeymoon?" Her eyes widened at my bruised face. "Oh, Olivia, I didn't know it was that bad." "What do you need?" I asked, not letting her in. She fidgeted. We're leaving for our honeymoon soon, but I had to see you. To explain. Explain what? Your parents, she said. Weeks ago, they told us you'd give us the penthouse as a wedding gift, just waiting to announce it. We were so thankful, Olivia. Our apartment's tiny, and with my teacher's pay and Carlos jobless. They lied, I cut in. I never agreed to that. It was never even discussed. Heather's face fell. I figured that out last night. Carlos doesn't believe me, but I told him it must have been a mix-up or something. Or they set it up to pressure me in public, I said. She looked away. Maybe. I don't know. I'm sorry, for believing them, for not speaking up, for everything. And Carlos? I asked. Is he sorry? She paused. He's upset, confused. He thinks you're jealous, punishing him for being the favorite. I almost laughed at the twisted logic. Is that why he did nothing when Dad hit me? He froze, she said weakly. It happened so fast. It did, I agreed. Heather, I appreciate you coming, but I'm done talking. Enjoy your honeymoon. I wish you both well, but I need space from my family now. Will you ever forgive them? She asked softly. I touched my bruise. That depends on them owning their actions. All I've gotten are demands for my apology. After she left, my friend Margaret showed up with lunch, pain relievers, and a gel pack for my face. You need some care, she said, setting food on my counter, and a friend who's fully on your side. Her support broke me open. I spilled everything, not just the wedding, but years of favoritism, neglect, and manipulation that shaped my family. I knew your parents were tough, Margaret said when I finished, but this is beyond normal drama. That was assault, Olivia. Have you thought about a police report? The idea shocked me. No, that feels too extreme. More extreme than being slapped at a wedding for keeping your home? She asked. You don't have to, but at least document it. I took her advice, snapping photos of my bruise with dates and details. I wasn't sure I'd use them, but it felt like taking back some control. Over the next few days, I set boundaries I'd never dared before. I blocked Mom and Dad's numbers for a while, needing a break from their toxicity. I texted Carlos that I loved him but couldn't talk until he faced what happened. His reply, whatever. Your choice, proved I was right to step back. Not all family ties broke. Aunt Patricia called, furious at Dad's actions, offering support. A few cousins sent similar messages, forming a small group who saw the dysfunction clearly. My friends' value shone through. Margaret, Allison, and Brenda from work became my shield, checking in, bringing food, and distracting me when memories hit hard. They listened as I worked through the wedding's impact and what it meant for my future. Craziest thing? I told Brenda over coffee a week later. Part of me feels guilty, like I should have given them the penthouse for peace. That's how abuse works, she said softly. It makes you doubt your right to respect. But would you ever demand someone's home? Or hit them for saying no? Never, I said. Then why accept that from anyone, even family? She asked. Especially family. Her words hit deep, challenging the years of conditioning to put others' wants first. Slowly, I started rethinking family and my own worth. The weeks after the wedding felt like a new, strange world where I was cut off from my parents and brother. Shock faded into a mix of grief, relief, and uncertainty. The bruise on my face healed faster than the emotional pain. I went back to work after a few days, hiding the mark with makeup and vague excuses about an accident. Only my boss, Diana, got the full story, as I explained needing possible time off. Take what you need, she said, her tone kind but not pitying. And, if I may, you did the right thing. No one gets to treat you like that, family or not. Her words bolstered my belief that I wasn't the one in the wrong. 3 weeks later, a formal letter arrived from my parents on Dad's business stationery, cold and official. It said I'd be out of their will and family unless I gave up my selfish stance on the penthouse, with a 30-day deadline. I read it twice, then filed it under family correspondence, distancing myself from their ultimatum. The old me would have panicked, called to beg or fix things. The new me saw it for what it was, another control tactic. I replied simply, "I got your letter. My stance hasn't changed. I'm keeping my home. If that means I'm not family, I accept that with sadness, but no regret." The deadline passed without a word from them. Carlos sent occasional texts about their health, meant to guilt me, but never mentioned the wedding or his silence. The quiet from my immediate family opened room for other bonds to grow. I reconnected with Aunt Patricia, Mom's sister, who always saw me more clearly than my parents. Over lunch by the water, she gave me new perspective. Aunt Patricia opened my eyes. "Your mom envied your independence," she said. "You built your life without their approval, and that scared her." "Why?" I asked, puzzled. "Don't parents want their kids to stand on their own?" She gave a sad smile. "In healthy families, yes. But your mom feels valuable when others depend on her. Carlos needed her money and emotions. You didn't, and she couldn't handle that." Her words clarified years of family tension. My parents' actions were about their flaws, not my worth. I made a life-changing choice then. I started therapy with Dr. Eleanor Matthews, a family trauma expert. She helped me sort through the pain of being estranged from my parents and brother. "You're grieving," she said in one session. "Not for a death, but for the family you wanted, the parents you deserved but never got. It's okay to mourn that." With Dr. Matthews' help, I unraveled the false beliefs shaping my views on love, worth, and family. I saw how I'd absorbed my parents' criticism, always feeling I had to earn basic respect. "You didn't cause their behavior," she often said. "You can't control or fix it. You can only change yourself." Her words became my anchor as I set healthier boundaries, not just with my family, but in all my relationships. I noticed I'd been a people pleaser with friends, overworked to prove my worth at the office, and apologized for reasonable needs. My personal growth aligned with work opportunities. My firm was growing its high-net-worth client services, and Diana picked me to lead it. The role brought more responsibility, a big raise, and the recognition I'd rarely gotten from family. "You were the clear choice," Diana said when I thanked her. "Your clients trust you because you're skilled and real, a rare mix." As summer turned to fall, I transformed my penthouse. I swapped out decor chosen to please my parents for bold colors, abstract art, and cozy furniture that suited me. Each change, like the teal wall in my living room or the big reading chair by the windows, felt like reclaiming myself. This was my space, earned by my hard work, built for my comfort. I threw a small housewarming to show off the redesign, inviting friends who truly cared about me. My 33rd birthday came in October, my first without forced family calls or cards. Instead of sadness, I planned a coastal getaway with Margaret and Allison. Walking the windy beach, watching waves hit the rocks, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. "You seem different," Allison said, picking up shells. "Lighter." "I feel it," I said. Like I dropped a heavy load I didn't know I carried. "Parental expectations," Margaret said. "The heaviest weight out there." We laughed, but she was right. Free from chasing my parents' approval, I made choices based on my values, not their judgments. In November, Carlos texted about Dad's minor surgery, hinting I should visit, as if a health scare erased my boundaries. After talking with Dr. Matthews, I sent a card wishing Dad well but didn't go. It felt right, I could care without opening myself to more hurt. Carlos's reply was sharp, "Guess your fancy apartment matters more than family." I didn't bite. "I wish Dad a quick recovery," I texted back. "My boundaries stand. I'm here when you're ready to talk about the wedding and our family issues." He didn't reply, and I didn't expect him to. I was okay with the uncertainty of whether we'd ever reconnect. Thanksgiving loomed, a holiday tied to family. Instead of being alone, I joined Margaret's family. Surrounded by her lively relatives, who only asked me to pass the cranberry sauce, I found a new kind of family, built on real care, not control. 6 months after the wedding, the daily pain of estrangement had softened to a dull ache. I'd created a life full of strong friendships, work success, and personal growth. My penthouse, once a source of conflict, was now my sanctuary, proof of my right to set boundaries. One evening on my terrace, watching the sunset glow pink and gold, I realized I was happy, not despite losing my family, but partly because of it. That painful break let real joy grow. 6 months later, Seattle's rainy season began. I loved this time, the steady rain, the city softened into grays and greens like a painting. At my penthouse windows, watching raindrops streak the glass, I thought back to that spring day when Dad's slap changed everything. The bruise was gone, but it reshaped how I saw family, love, and my own worth. I used to define myself by my parents' expectations and Carlos's needs. Now, I knew I was whole on my own. Work was thriving. The client initiative I led beat expectations, earning me a big bonus and talk of a partnership track. I grew my team, mentoring young advisors in a kinder way than the harsh world I'd faced early on. Your leadership's different, Ryan, a new hire, told me. Tough but supportive. It's rare in this business. His words warmed me, proof I was breaking toxic patterns, not just at home but at work. The lessons from my family pain reached far beyond those ties. My social circle grew stronger. Margaret, Allison, and Brenda stayed close, but I made new friends through a book club, a weekend hiking group, and a cooking class I joined on a whim in September. These bonds were simple, built on real connection, not family baggage. My estrangement from my parents and Carlos held firm. Their lawyer sent a cold notice confirming I was out of their will. Carlos stopped his guilt-trip texts, seeming to realize he had no hold over me anymore. Aunt Patricia shared how my parents painted me as the villain, selfish and cruel, while they played the victims. It's easier than facing the truth, she said over dinner. Admitting fault would mean questioning their whole approach to parenting. Does their lying about me bother you? I asked. She squeezed my hand. Those who matter know the truth. The ones who believe the lies never really knew you. Her words freed me from the old worry about family reputation drilled into me as a kid. Therapy with Dr. Matthews dropped to twice a month, shifting from crisis to growth. In one session, she noted my progress in breaking old habits. When we started, she said, you thought your worth came from what you gave others, especially family. How do you see it now? I paused, then answered, I know my value's mine alone. It's not about achievements or sacrifices. I matter just because I'm me, not what I do for others. That's the biggest lesson anyone can learn, she smiled. Most never do. As Christmas neared, I hosted a small gathering in my penthouse for friends like me, distant from family by choice or chance. Planning the menu, decorating the tree, and making a warm space brought me joy, free of duty or expectations. 2 weeks before Christmas, I ran into Carlos at a coffee shop. I'd stopped for a peppermint mocha, arms full of shopping bags. He sat alone, frowning at his laptop, frustration clear in his furrowed brow. I almost left unnoticed. Our last talk, months ago, ended badly. But curiosity, or maybe the holiday spirit, pushed me to his table. Hey, Carlos, I said softly. He looked up, startled. Olivia, didn't expect you here. It's a public coffee shop, I said with a small smile, keeping things light. Silence hung heavy, 6 months of unsaid words between us. Then he pointed to the chair across from him. Got a minute, or are you rushing off? I hesitated, then sat, bags at my feet. How are you? Heather okay? We're good, he said, shutting his laptop. Heather's pregnant, actually. Due in May. That's great, I said, truly happy despite our past. Congrats. Yeah, it's exciting. Scary, too, he said, running a hand through his hair, a nervous tic from childhood. Our apartment's gonna be tight with a baby. I braced, wondering if he'd bring up my penthouse. But he surprised me. Mom and Dad wanted us to move in with them, he said. They've got room and want to help with the baby, but Heather and I want to do this ourselves. That was new. Big step, I said. He nodded. Heather's firm about setting boundaries with them, especially after the wedding. I stayed quiet, waiting to see where this was going. I should have done something that day, he said, eyes down. When Dad hit you, I should have stepped in, stopped it. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than I expected. Why didn't you? I asked, curious, not accusing. He sighed. I was shocked, confused, then mad, not at Dad, but at you for making a scene at my wedding. It took time to see how wrong that was. Now I see Mom and Dad have real problems. Their expectations, how they talk about you, it's not right. Heather's shown me that. Her family's different. I nodded, getting it. A fresh perspective helps. They still mention the penthouse, he admitted. How it should have been mine, how you're selfish. I used to agree, but now it sounds insane. Who expects someone to give up their home? His shift surprised me, showing growth I hadn't seen coming. We talked for an hour, carefully stepping through our shared past and different paths. He didn't fully apologize for the wedding, and I didn't press, seeing his recognition of our parents' issues as a big step. As we got ready to leave, he paused. Would you meet me and Heather for lunch sometime? Nothing big, just to talk. The old me would have leapt at the chance to fix things. The new me thought it over, balancing real connection against possible manipulation. I'd like that, I said. But my boundaries with Mom and Dad stay. I'm not ready for a full family reunion. Fair, he said. Just us. Heather wants to talk to you, too. We made loose plans for January, after the holidays. Watching him walk away, I felt no desperate need for reconciliation or the old bitterness. Just calm acceptance. Whatever came next with Carlos would happen naturally, without pressure. My Christmas party was perfect, laughter, good food, and real warmth. As my friends admired the view, loved the meal, and swapped stories late into the night, I knew I'd built something special, a chosen family, tied by respect and care, not blood or duty. Later, alone with a glass of wine, watching city lights glow, my phone pinged. Carlos sent a sonogram of his unborn child with, your future niece or nephew. Merry Christmas, Olivia. The gesture brought tears, not from past pain, but from hope for a healthier bond. I saved the image and sent warm holiday wishes back. As the new year neared, I reflected on the past 6 months. From the wedding's public shame and private hurt to the peace I now felt, the change was huge. I'd lost a family that never truly worked for me and found a clearer sense of what family should be. My penthouse, once a source of conflict, now stood for my independence. Each sunrise over Puget Sound, each evening in my crafted space, brought quiet joy. I'd earned this home and defended it with courage. The biggest lesson from this hard time was simple: real family, blood or chosen, lifts you up, celebrates your wins, and respects your boundaries. Love that demands your self-worth isn't love, it's control dressed up as care. On New Year's Eve, watching fireworks light up the Space Needle, I didn't make resolutions. I recognized how far I'd come, from seeking others' approval to knowing my own worth. The path wasn't easy, and some scars might never fade. But by standing firm at the wedding, whispering, you just lost me, and meaning it, I gained myself, whole and true. Growing up, I was taught family came first, no matter the cost. My parents' voices echoed in my head, don't embarrass us. Don't be selfish. Sacrifice for the family name. It shaped me, made me shrink myself to fit their mold. But that day at Carlos's wedding, when Dad's hand struck my face in front of everyone, something broke, not just my heart, but the chains I'd carried. I'd spent years trying to please them, thinking my worth was tied to their approval. The penthouse, my pride and joy, became their target. They called it selfish, said I owed it to Carlos because he was starting a family. I'd worked hard for it, saved every penny, but to them, it was a symbol of my defiance. That wedding moment wasn't just about the slap. It was years of control, of being told I wasn't enough unless I gave everything. When I walked away, whispering, "You just lost me," it wasn't just anger. It was a vow to myself, to stop chasing their love at the cost of my own. Therapy with Dr. Matthews became my lifeline. Early on, we dug into the pain, how I'd internalized their expectations, how I'd let their voices drown out my own. She helped me see that love shouldn't feel like a transaction. Slowly, I started rebuilding, piece by piece, a sense of self that didn't depend on their validation. By the time Christmas came, I was ready to create new traditions. My penthouse, once a point of family strife, became a sanctuary. I invited friends who, like me, had complicated family ties. Some had cut contact, others kept distance for their own peace. We weren't bound by blood, but by understanding. We shared stories, laughed over burnt cookies, and decorated my tree with mismatched ornaments. It felt like home in a way my parents' house never had. Seeing Carlos in that coffee shop was unexpected. Our last fight, right after the wedding, was raw, him defending our parents, me begging him to see their control. He couldn't then, but time and Heather's influence seemed to shift things. His words about our parents' expectations, about the penthouse, showed he was starting to question the narrative we'd both been fed. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I didn't trust it fully. Years of family patterns taught me to be cautious. But his invitation to lunch with Heather felt like a step towards something new, not the old family dynamic, but a relationship on my terms. I'd meet them, but I'd hold my boundaries firm. No more bending to fit someone else's idea of who I should be. The sonogram Carlos sent was a small bridge, a sign he wanted connection without strings. Saving it felt like keeping a door open, not wide, but enough for possibility. I wasn't the same Olivia who'd begged for family approval. I was someone new, someone who knew her worth didn't come from others' opinions. That Christmas night, as my friends left and I stood alone by my window, the city sparkled below. Puget Sound reflected the lights, calm and steady. My penthouse wasn't just a home, it was proof I could build a life that was mine. No guilt, no apologies. The journey from that wedding to now wasn't linear. There were nights I cried, doubting myself, wondering if I'd been too harsh, too quick to cut ties. Dr. Matthews helped me see those doubts as part of growth, not failure. Each session peeled back another layer of the old me, revealing someone stronger underneath. I thought about Carlos and Heather's baby, my future niece or nephew. I didn't know what our relationship would look like, but I knew I'd approach it differently. I'd be an aunt who showed up authentically, not as a people pleaser. If they wanted me in their lives, it would be as equals, not as someone bending to family demands. New Year's Eve was quiet but powerful. The Space Needle's fireworks lit up the sky, each burst a reminder of my freedom. I didn't need resolutions because I was already living them. I'd chosen myself, and that choice rippled into every part of my life, my home, my friendships, my peace. The scars from my family's expectations still lingered, but they didn't define me. They were just marks of a battle I'd won. Standing up at that wedding, walking away, was the start of everything. It wasn't about rejecting family, it was about choosing me. If my story hits home, you're not alone. Setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's vital for your well-being. Your worth isn't what you give others. Love shouldn't cost your dignity. Share your story in the comments. Ever faced family pressure? How'd you handle it? Hit like if my journey spoke to you. Subscribe for more stories about overcoming family struggles, and share this with someone who needs to know it's okay to put themselves first. Thanks for hearing my story. Remember, sometimes the family you build nurtures you more than the one you're born into.